The next 1 hour, I can assure you, is going to be a time well worth spent. It's going to be very interesting for each one of you. And there are two reasons why this is so. Number one, we have a very illustrious audience, right? We have some very, very senior people. We have Vijay Chandok from ICICI, he's MD of ICICI Securities. We'll have Ajay Mahajan joining in. He's MD and CEO of CARE. We have been instrumental in placing him there. We will have Vidyut Arte, the ex-MD of Cadbury's, joining us. He was Cadbury's China. We have Ajay joined in now. You all heard Vikram Surendran, the president of Eureka Forbes. He was a panelist earlier. Ajay was a panelist earlier. Vidyut was a panelist earlier. So these are the people who have contributed a lot to the growth of this movement, and you'll be here from them. Second and more important, or rather most important, is the fact that we have a very, very accomplished panel of speakers, and I would like to quickly take you through their profiles. But before that, let me also say to the people who came late, we have the managing partner of Horton Russia and the regional director Europe, Andre, on the call. He's been there, and we are likely to also have two of our partners, Akhil Shani of the Shani Group, who does a lot of work for the BFSI sales sector, so on and so forth. Right? So let me just, without wasting time, let me introduce you to the panelists. So let me introduce you to the panelists first. First and foremost, Ravika Ramchetty. Those of you who have attended the webinars earlier, Ravi has been the consistent and the common factor. He is the moderator, and he'll be so for the next one other dozen that we are planning. Ravi is a chemical engineer, FMS Delhi 88, companies like Asian Paint, Philips. Then he was the MD for the consumer and commercial business for Kodak. Similarly, Sun Edison, and right now he's a managing director of a B2B transformation leadership company. And we're fortunate to have Ravi anchor all our webinars and contribute to this movement. We have Ashish Srivastav. Ashish is currently the MD and CEO of PNB MetLife India Insurance. Ashish is a veteran of the insurance sector. The interesting fact about Ashish, which is not here in this slide, is that he is gone up to the MD and CEO level with a very strong career in HR. Most of the others are business people who have gone up to MD and CEO. There are very few people in the whole of India that you can actually count who have gone up to MD and CEO through the HR route. He was he played a stellar role in big companies like Coca-Cola, Taj, Times of India, and was regional director HR in charge of Middle East and Africa for MetLife before he took over the current role. The only other few people whom I know who have gone up to being MD through the HR route is Santroop Mishra. I'm sure all of you know of Santroop, who heads up Group Global HR for the Aditya Birla Group. So welcome, Ashish, and I'm sure you will bring a very different perspective to this conversation from the HR angle besides the business angle. Sanjay, all the way joining us from Hong Kong. Sanjay is right now based in Hong Kong. And Sanjay again had a very illustrious career in banking, earlier ANZ, and then for a long stint in HSBC till early this year. He's played various roles. He's been CEO of Bangladesh. He's been Deputy CEO of India, Regional Head of International Commercial Countries. And the last assignment till very recently was Senior Executive International HSBC. So he's played transformational roles. So whenever transformation is required, I think HSBC got Sanjay to handle that across Asia Pacific, and he carries some great experience in HSBC across various roles. And last, well, quite a few of you know me, but just in case you don't, and in case you have forgotten, so let me tell you a bit about myself. I am from Jamnalal Bajaj. My famous batchmate is Mr. Uday Kotak, which all of you bankers would know. and 38 years in sales and marketing. So two of them was in marketing when I launched VIP Skybags, and the balance 36 in sales. And I'm proud to say that I've been a salesperson right through. In VIP, where I said I launched Skybags, and then I went to American Express, travel-related services, where I was head of sales for 3 products in 7 countries. Then last 28 years, I've been in recruitment, HR, consulting, and executive search. In recruitment, I still run a company called Zodiac. We've done very senior placements like Nani Zaveri into Oman International Bank, Ajay Bimbat into Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank as Zodiac. I quit recruitment, went to HR consulting, ran the India operations of a company called Hay Group, which in HR consulting is equivalent to a McKinsey. Right now, it's a part of Conferry. And then for the last about 10 years, I run the India and South Asia arm of Horton International. Horton International, incidentally, is today amongst the top 40 global search firms. And I run this part of the world. Andre runs Europe and basically Russia. And about 2 years ago, me and a group of 5 CEOs, all of us equally passionate about the sales profession and the sales professional, got together to set up InSales Pro. What InSales Pro is, I will quickly brief you. The purpose of InSales Pro, the name InSales Pro, you would have seen in the invite, it's Horton and InSales Pro. I briefed you what InSales Pro is. Horton is. InSales Pro stands for Institution of Sales Professionals, and our purpose is to build pride in the sales profession, right? That's our motto. Why are we setting this up? Every other profession, whether it's entrepreneurs or finance and legal, human resources, marketing, supply chain, technology, have associations, they have forums, they have publications, they have events, awards, professional development, certification, degrees, networking. The only one which doesn't have anything is sales. And the reason is not far to seek, because it's never sales as an independent function. It's always sales and marketing. And we believe, the people who founded, who are my co-founders, all of us believe that sales is an independent function and should be treated as an independent function. And mind you, all 5, 6 of us have gone up to MDCO level, largely the sales route. What is InSales Pro? It is a community for all those interested in the profession of sales. These could be corporates. In fact, they should be corporates, CEOs, CHROs, chief sales officers, sales professionals, suppliers, vendors to the sales profession, affiliated associations like Retail Association of India, Nagesh will join us. But all the activities of the association will be focused in and around the sales profession. Our vision is to enhance the reputation, professional performance, and opportunities for sales professionals in India, South Asia, and Middle East, build standards, ethics, and pride in the profession, and therefore lead to success of the sales professional and the organization. InSales Pro is the shared vision of stalwarts from different sectors with a strong base in the sales function. Besides me, there's Girish Rao, who was ex-LG, ex-BPL, then SR Steel. Girish is on this particular call. Who's Nimesh Mehta, he was in Godrej earlier and now he works for ASK, where he's a director of product development. Raj Grover is ex-Saregama, ex-Gillette, and then now in the education space. Vijay Sampath, durables, media, Amar Chitrakatha, and now is in SP Jain. Mr. Vikesh Walia, quite a few who are in the board level positions would know Vikesh. He is the regional director for the Institute of Directors. Before that, he was the director for Times of India Group. He's still on the board of Times of India. So these are the 6 people who got together. As you see, all of us have been MD CEOs from largely from the sales background, and genuinely believe that sales needs to be a separate function. I mentioned that I have been 36 years in sales, and a lot of you would wonder that I said 20 years, 28 years in HR and in recruitment and consulting. Well, I think even HR consulting, recruitment, search is sales. We are promoting the company to the candidates, and the candidates to the companies. It's a marriage which we facilitate. So I'm proud to say that I've been doing that. and making a difference to a number of careers in the country. So this in brief, friends, was a bit about us. This in brief is a bit about Insals Pro. And now I hand over the baton to your moderator, Mr. Ravi Karam Chetty, whom I have introduced, the ex-MD of Kodak and Sun Edison, and he's been running all the webinars.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. It's really a pleasure to see you all. As Dippy mentioned, that we're pretty close to 50 odd participants today, and I'm sure more will join in as we rolled on. So the broad theme of the discussion today is focused on sales. The point that we really talk is how are companies approaching to become a digitally savvy sales organization. This is the most important thing everybody is talking about, a lot more in the banking and the financial sector. And the third and more important thing, most important, is also what type of attitude do these sales professionals need to bring to work in these times. First, they need to be very resilient, they need to be self-driven. And also, we need to have very adaptable sales teams because we are going through a very new normal. So in this environment, we have a very illustrious panelist. So without taking too much time, I would now invite our first panelist, Sanjay Prakash, based out of Hong Kong, to take it on. And give me a moment, Sanjay, to bring on your slides.
Right.
Yes, Sanjay, ready to go.
Thank you. Thank you, Dippy. Thank you, Ravi, for the kind introductions and comments. And good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to be here from Hong Kong. I put together 4 slides, so there are only 4 slides. It won't be death by PowerPoint. And basically, I titled my slides, The Role, the Tools, the Mindset, and the Challenge. And I'm sure the other panelists and yourselves will have lots of comments and questions around this topic, which is very pertinent in today's time. So my first slide is the role. And when I look back 6 to 9 months, in Hong Kong, we adopted working from home, etc., sometime in January, late January, because the COVID hit us here from China the first. And nobody would have imagined the paradigm change that we had to bring about in the bank. And, it particularly affects the sales function. There are some functions which traditionally you can work from home, you can work from anywhere, but the sales function is most affected. And in the sales functions, the institutional sales function, which is corporates and institutional clients, they get affected the most because there the meetings are more face-to-face than digital or remote. And this scenario is ever evolving. Now, given the hand we've been sort of dealt with, there is an opportunity for us to disrupt, to innovate, to reboot. And if I look at examples from history, if you go back in time and you say taxi operators, the world's largest taxi operator today owns no vehicles. Another example, the world's largest accommodation provider owns no real estate. Or closer to all of us, look at your phones. Would you have imagined, I got my first mobile, I think in 1999. And that time it was a Nokia, nice, lovely phone. And today we all have smartphones. You can pretty much do everything, multitask with your phone. And when you talk about sales, I hope it's not true, but 5-10 years from now, we may question, why did we ever see a client face-to-face or certain types of clients? So we have to reimagine the impossible. And who knows, 5-10 years, if we retract what we are speaking today, things may be very, very different. Our next point is actually an important one, and I'll provide some examples of trust and communication in today's time at an all-time premium. So whether you work from home, whether you work at home, whether you work from anywhere, these are all acronyms which now are prevalent. And if you look back, in tradition, people always worked in office. And the common refrain was that, working from home doesn't work. What if they're having fun? The Western world has actually done much better than the Asian world in this area. And I recall in America, people started working from home some 20 years ago, and it's more accepted by senior management, etc. And the example I'd like to give you is that, many years ago, I was a part of the Asia Pacific Diversity Committee of the bank. And I had just come out of Bangladesh, and the chair of the committee knew some of the initiatives I'd done there towards this initiative of remote working, because in Bangladesh, everybody's late all the time. And the common excuse is traffic. And I'm saying, we've got to kill this somehow. And we started many initiatives to sort of make sure that we actually delivered the promise to the customer. And so this lady at this committee, I sort of articulated all the things that I had done. And then the cheeky me asked the question of this 25-member senior managers in Asia Pacific. And I asked the question that how many of you work from home? And you won't believe it, there was not one person whose hand went up. And there lies the fact of trust, because the senior management did not really, trust is a strong word, but I'm just using that word. They did not really trust the employees to work from home. I personally have in my career always advocated people working from home. And I'm saying, have fun, go and see a movie, take your parents out, doctor, this, that, the other, but just deliver the goods for me. And the other part, now that we're all working remotely, is the communication aspect. And, I like the way DP, read out the rules that we should operate. And these are very simple things, but they make a big difference in terms of how the meeting goes. And our bank has sort of adopted lots of things in this area in terms of training, which I'll talk about in subsequent slides. Then the question arises that given what we've been doing for the last 6 to 9 months, has productivity really improved? Because that is actually very important. Has it improved? Now, the anecdotal evidence suggests yes, and think about it. You're not traveling, so there's no travel time. There's less paperwork, right? You have flexibility in your day in terms of time schedules. It has particularly improved for roles that require quiet time. So if you're writing a report, you're doing some analysis, the conversations are shorter because they're being done by Zoom, WhatsApp, WebEx, whatever mode you're using. And the part which actually is suffering a little bit, I think, is the collaboration. Because, in the past, you could just walk across to somebody's desk, meet somebody at the coffee machine or in the elevator, or you went out for lunch. And those things are taking a little bit of a hit. And then that begs the question, how are our customers and employees coping? If I'm honest, I think it varies from country to country. But in general, I think customers have been struggling because they are at different levels of digital maturity, especially in the institutional space, especially amongst the senior most management. And I know a number of you may disagree with me, but that's the sort of Asia Pacific view that I'm giving you. And they are trying to adapt and learn the digital way. The other thing I'd say, which is actually very important, and I go back to 2008, is this is the time when everyone is struggling that the salespeople have to step up and do more than they ever did for a customer. And what I mean by that is, take 2008, it was a financial crisis. Today, it's a health crisis, but the effect is similar, that people are struggling with their financials, with their revenues, with costs, etc. And if salespeople, albeit remotely, reach out to customers more and do things with them which alleviates the pain, I think these customers will be there for you for life, as I've seen in 2008. I recall in 2008, I was in Bangladesh and we went and rescheduled a number of companies' loans. And all we were judging at that point in time was their intention to repay, not capability, because we knew the capability was not there. And the scenario today is very similar. You can see all financial services are actually struggling today on the top line. And this is going to continue for at least the next sort of 18 months or 2 years. I hope I'm wrong, but that's what I think. And then when you think about employees, I think they're coping a lot better. But there is a huge shift in employee expectations of how the future of work will look. And of course, it differs by country and by function. And I would say the more modern societies are coping with this a lot better. But suffice it to say that there will be a new normal. There'll be probably a hybrid model. Maybe 30% will work from home, 70% will come back, and the jury's out as to what those percentage will be. So in summary on this slide, I'd say that the reality is that people adapt to situations better when they're left with little or no options. This is a relatively easier one. So given the background around the role, all organizations, including the bank I represented, have invested a lot in what I call the enablers. And these are investments in technology, in infrastructure. And, we always struggle with budgets, but suddenly all budgets have been approved because, there's a demand for laptops, there's a demand for headsets. The bandwidths in the bank had to go up. The bandwidths at home had to go up. We had to allow more and more people to remote access, and that there was a lot of stress testing done on that. Cloud storage, we adopted cloud storage. We've even in India, I believe, now offering 15,000 rupees to every employee to buy a chair or a desk, because you hear horror stories, people actually working on the ironing boards, for instance. I heard this only yesterday that, in Hong Kong particularly, the houses are small. There are no air conditioning in many homes. You have got kids also who have to do their education all online. And it's a real issue in some countries, including Hong Kong, which is, okay, that's technology for you. I'm talking about technology and it fails me. And the next is training. So our bank has done some very extensive training on communication skills, be it phone, be it video etiquette, and we are advocating people to be short, sharp, succinct in their communication, how to run meetings, how to run sales meetings via remote tools. We're now opening accounts cross-border through video conferencing rather than having the customer in your door. So this is a paradigm shift in the way the bank is operating, and I'm sure a lot of companies are doing the same. In addition, the processes. We have now embraced digital documentations, e-signatures, electronic filing systems. Client planning was always digital, but it's taken it to a different level because you're not really meeting clients. But at the same time, you've got to ensure that the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability of customer data is available to employees at home, which is a huge challenge because you don't know how people are using this data. And there's an element of trust, which also is expected of our employees. And the next is measurement of productivity. And, once you're doing the investments in technology, et cetera, there's a lot of data out there in our systems today. And there's one aspect which again borderlines on trust is there's a lot of self-reporting on what people are doing. And that self-reporting, if you're doing 10 calls, then, are you really doing 10 calls? And some managers would suspect, well, is that true or not? My view is that people are actually working much harder now that they're working from home, and they're probably being more productive. And that is reflecting in the sort of MI that we are starting to see based on self-reporting. And the last point on this slide is the analytics. Artificial intelligence and data science has been adopted by the bank for now over a year in a very active way. And we're using this pandemic for doing risk management, stress testing. We're able to do sector reviews across countries. We're able to actually use this information to advise clients as to what they should do, given that supply chain is being severely disrupted and all the geopolitics that's also at play. And the last, we're using analytics a lot for assessing the effectiveness of sales and productivity. Okay, this is my third slide, which is the mindset. So having done the role and the tools, it's the mindset. And the mindset is on two accounts. One is the organization and one is the employee. I've seen so much empathy, flexibility, and kindness in the bank. And I sometimes wonder, why couldn't you do this before? But maybe it needed a pandemic to sort of instill this. And I personally think when this pandemic is all over, I think the world will be a better place as far as these things go, which I think is, looking at the glass half full rather than the glass half empty. The other challenge for the organization or any organization is how do you stay connected with people or your staff, let alone customers? So we've set up these chat rooms, and these chat rooms are largely for collaboration, because that's, like I said earlier, is taking a little bit of a backseat. We're also setting up virtual coffee meets, so everyone has a coffee or a drink or something like that. It's fun. Town halls, again, very punctuated town halls from time to time. And then also celebration events, because you also got to celebrate. I mean, people are missing out on some of these things. And the last point on this particular organization is we're doing a lot of courses on mental and physical well-being. And I do believe that whether we like it or not, for some people and for some families, depending on where you are, there are going to be some long-term effects, not so good, on the well-being of people. And therefore, if we can actually help not just the staff that we have, but also their families, I think this will go a long way in terms of managing the situation. And then we come to the employee, which is super important. And I'm sure everybody knows this, but now that you're working from home, I'm actually in my pajamas below this, but there has to be a routine. There has to be a routine for work. There has to be a routine for play. So there has to be some exercise, some mindfulness, some meditation. And people have to get into this discipline of it, because if they don't, I think, the issues around mental and physical well-being will not be met. And the other aspect, which I think Ravi mentioned, was around managing uncertainty and ambiguity. And this is where the comms team is doing a wonderful job in telling all our staff the situation as it is, rather than, sweet talk. It's absolutely direct, it's absolutely focused, it's succinct, and it's punctuated at periodic intervals to land the message. And the last point on this slide is the accountability step. We ourselves, the onus is on us, actually. You can't blame anybody for anything. It's really the onus is on each one of us to actually make sure that our mindset is fit for purpose, not just in the present time, but also for the future. And this is, this learning will never come to us again, hopefully, but this is something that we all have to experience. All right, this is my last slide, and I call this the challenge. There are so many challenges today, as some of the comments I made alluded to. I listed down 3 here, which for me, I'm particularly passionate about, having been in banking for over 3 decades, but more because in the way HSBC works, in the conduct risk. And the conduct risk is a new word which has been coined today, but it's nothing but doing the right thing, having reward and recognition mechanisms. And the question really is, why does this conduct risk fail? Why does it? Is it the training? Is it the culture? Is it the targets we are setting people? Is it that we don't have checks and balances? And my earnest request to everybody in these times is to set very realistic targets. And therefore you try and avoid the reputational risk. I mean, recently you would have read big banks, big American bank went through a lot of trouble in their staff doing the wrong thing. And this has happened even in Asia Pacific. And so this is something that every senior manager needs to be sort of seized with, is that how is it going to affect the brand value over a period of time? Next one is on cybersecurity. This is actually, given that we are working remotely, given that we're using technology more and more, and we have leapfrog technology, this is the biggest emerging risk, at least in the banking scenario and financial services. And not just in the bank, but even at your personal level, this is very, very important. And let me pose a question to everybody, and you can answer it in your own time, is each one of us has a router at home. You know that if you have not changed the password of your router, people can actually hack into your system despite you having the strongest security on your laptop, desktop, etc. And of course, there is this risk of data being stolen. And then there's also the physical security risk of laptops at home, it's getting stolen, etc. So cybersecurity is actually one of the biggest risks that's emerging today. And the last one is a bit fuzzy, but I tell you, the culture is the most difficult aspect to get right in this scenario. And especially when you have people coming in and out of organizations, they're working in their own time, you're not having any oversight of them. They're not in a common pool of goodness, if I may call it, where culture rubs off to each other. And this is again where comms plays a very important role. So we've implemented in the bank a buddy system to onboard people, especially for newcomers, to actually help them embrace the culture of the organization, which I think is clearly at risk given all this remote working, etc. So I'll end by just saying that this is a paradigm change for sales professionals and other professionals. This will require extraordinary efforts and patience to provide seamless service to all stakeholders. I'm personally optimistic that we will collectively succeed to create a new normal. So Ravi, I'll stop here because I think I've taken my quota of time.
So thanks, Sanjay. I think that was really insightful, especially the way you used a very simple four axis framework to share with us what's happening and what you believe. So thank you, Sanjay. I will come back to you with questions towards the end, but thanks for very good insight. With this, I would like to move to our next speaker, Ashish Srivastava from PNB MetLife. Ashish, without taking too much time, I pass it on to you.
First of all, thanks, Dippy. Thanks, Ravi and all the others. Good afternoon, good evening. I think it's a very, very pertinent topic at a time when we are going through. We will talk about. You heard Sanjay, you heard Ravi about the new normal. I would like to spend a bit of time on this slide. I also have around 3 or 4 slides, so should be quick. So before I sort of deep dive into what PNB MetLife is doing, and to face the new reality, what changes have we done in our strategy, how are we equipping our sales force to manage the situation, how are we providing, what tools are we providing or adopting to manage in this new normal. I thought setting the context would help. Now, setting the context in terms of the insurance industry, I think the first thing which has got challenged is a very well set notion about insurance is sold face to face and it's a push product. I think that's got challenged big time. And the other one is, that the consumers, of course, it's because the consumers are moving. They're getting used to more and more online buying, and the experiences that they're having from other areas, they are now bringing to insurance, and they want insurance also to be as simple a buy as, many others. Opportunity-wise, we all know it's the penetration in India is minimal. We have huge opportunity, and we have exciting times in terms of the new middle class. So there is opportunity. There are customers. I think we need to now reach out to them in this new normal. Now, when I talk about the new normal, you see, there are words moving from reaction to reimagination. And I think that's what we've done over the last, 5-6 months. Initially we were reacting to the situation, and now it's slowly moving towards reimagine. And why do we need to reimagine? Of course, the lockdown, and we needed to see how we reach out to our customers. I wanted to share a quick survey that MetLife did in around 6 countries around the world, and 3 things came out. One, that awareness of insurance has gone up quite a bit. We all know that, that sounds reasonable. Second, around 79% of the respondents who participated in the survey said that they want more insurance. So they have some coverage, but they now more insurance given what they see in friends, family, getting impacted, and they want to buy more insurance. And the third, I think a very important thing that came up was that they want to now deal with companies which provide seamless digital journeys. And I think that's, what has been happening. I think the world has slowly been changing. the pace has got accelerated now. Now, sometimes we don't even realize the impact, that these things can bring. Now, I also wanted to share, a quick example. Now, the US presidential elections, what they did was, one of the candidates, the party, the people behind the scene, what they did was, they took out two set of buttons to attract people. One of the button was join us or sign up now. And the second button was learn more. And after looking at data, they realized that a large population is choosing the button learn more instead of sign up or join us now, which seems a bit counterintuitive, because join us now or sign up now seems more action oriented. But what they realized that a lot of people are clicking on learn more. The second thing that they realized was a black and white picture of the candidate and his family was getting many more clicks than a colored picture. And what they did in the campaign, in the final campaign, they combined this learn more and a black and white picture. And according to the data which is published, they think, or what they say is they got 40% more clicks on their candidate and around $75 million of donations, additional donations, because they did this behind the scenes. Now that's the impact, digital, and you see the words here, digital and phygital, because, we are sometimes a mix, that can bring. So in summary, we are in a stage where the new normal is there is going to be a normal which is different from what we have seen maybe 6 months back. Speed is becoming a competitive advantage. Data and digital tools, their adoption and acceptance is becoming a competitive advantage. This is more about PNB MetLife. Now, we thought we will have two pivots. One of them is customer. The other one is culture. So on the culture, the two C's as we call, on the culture bit, we are saying we will need to ace it. And when I say ace it, it's about having an agile culture, A. But C is collaboration, because you will have to collaborate within and outside. I keep saying that this is an era of collaboration. You cannot do everything on your own. You need to collaborate inside and with partners outside to win. And the E is efficiency. You will need to be much more efficient than ever before to survive and succeed. Now, customer, this is about how do we differentiate? How do we do customer segmentation? Given that, particularly now, every customer, including ourselves, we are bombarded with different digital tools, apps, messages, this, that, and other. So how do we not send out a message to 1 million customers, which means very little to maybe half of them? How can we do customer segmentation? How can we move from products to propositions? So solutions for customers. So that's an important piece that we are focusing on. The other one is, of course, the ease of interaction. How do we interact with them? So the words like touchless, contactless are in vogue. And I think everybody working on this aspect of customer engagement and onboarding. So as you can see, we are looking at not only from, not only at the customer proposition, how do we pitch to the customers, but throughout the life cycle, how do we engage with them digitally? And we'll talk a bit about this in my later slides. Now, given that context and given the customer, focus, how are we reimagining sales? How are we equipping our salespeople So starting from training, I mean, PNB MetLife, we have around 12,000 plus employees. We have around 8,000 plus agents. And then we have, distribution partners who we need to keep training and this and that. Now, every product that we roll out, we need to train. So imagine the number of people that we have to hire, that we hire and train on an everyday basis. All that has moved online. And I can tell you, the efficiencies have increased. Understanding have increased because you know what? We made it simple and I think it's working very well. As we train people and we move them, in, sort of what we call production, how are these people going to get in touch with them, with the customers, and how are they going to sell? Now that's where we have digital, tools, more and more, tools getting introduced. I can tell you, as I said, the pace has really, really accelerated. My digital and IT teams, but this is about all the others functions stepping up to, whether it's IT, whether it's digital, whether it's compliance, whether it's finance, whether it's HR, all these functions need to step up to support the sales, to equip sales so that they can do whatever they were doing. For example, I named compliance because there are a number of things that we have to do a wet signature or have to deliver a physical document, etc. So all those things need to be taken into account to see how we move and equip these sales folks to to enable the sales. Ending up at, of course, maturity or claims, and all of that we moved online. So you can do an online claims registration, and we have a claims assure process, which we will process the claims in 24 hours. This is about embracing the new normal. We are equipping ourselves. The context is there. The company is gearing up. We spoke about culture. We spoke about customer centricity. We spoke about the sales people getting ready and equipped for digital sort of engagement with the customers and selling. I have covered a few things here in terms of the key themes. So for every insurance product that we sell, we need to have a customer-led needs analysis. And that's now, again, digital. The customers are now, so we can do, our salespeople can do a co-browsing, by doing a screen sharing with our, customers. The servicing, we were one of the first companies to introduce digital servicing, which is an AI-based platform. It's called Khushi. Now this is, you can talk to Khushi or you can, write to Khushi, about almost anything that you want to do with your policy. Now, this is what I say is a customer service 24/7 at their fingertips. It's literally at their fingertips. And then, of course, now we are changing. As we change gears, we see the new normal. We are re-looking at our infrastructure. Insurance companies, we have a good mix of bank assurance as well as agency. Wherever you have agency workforce, you have your own infrastructure. And now we are looking at how can we have virtual agencies. So not have your own infrastructure, but equip somebody there in a city that you are not present, equip them digitally so that they are able to act as your virtual branch, without investing in infrastructure. That's about effectiveness, efficiency, and also empowering people to connect with customers.
Thank you, Ashish. I think that's a very good comprehensive coverage in a very short time, very, very crisply done. I could start off with Ashish. Ashish, a few questions for you. Yeah, so Ashish, the first question really, you talked about adapting to remote sales collaboration. How are you seeing both the sales personnel, approaching this?
Interesting question, Ravi. I have been talking to as I said, while sales have to step up, I think it's all other departments need to step up. So I keep telling my IT and digital teams that I don't just want a tool to be given to the sales, but you should work with them to see how they adopt it and how, that they are able to use it easily. So that's important, because once you are as you get used to more and more of this technology, and then start using the customers, you will win in these circumstances. Ravi, as we introduce, for example, when we introduced, say, Khushi, our digital servicing app, the initial adoption was not much, but in this pandemic, I can tell you the adoption rates have gone up substantially. And we are, of course, helping customers by reaching out to them, saying, okay, you can engage with us through Khushi, etc. So it's about how what digital tools are you adopting and how easy it is for the sales and customers to use it. That's what my view is, and how do you get everyone to equip sales to get the numbers. At the end of the day, it's about getting the numbers.
Excellent, wonderful. The second question that I have for you is: have you seen any behavioral resistance to change, or how to manage approach to this new normal in the sales organizations?
And to say that the resistance is not only by sales, it's in a lot of other departments too. So I would not single out sales. It's sometimes, as I said, sometimes it's change is always difficult, to adopt. The good thing is the pandemic has allowed people in some sense to accept change quickly. Given that that's how you will be able to do business. Virtual training. So we've been continuously engaging with our people, how to not only training them on products but also to use the tools, and sort of reaching out, having help desks created to help sales in case there is an issue. Can they reach out to somebody quickly? Because these are initial, as I said, adoption is equally important as procurement. So you can have one good nice toy to play with, but if you don't know how it works, or if you're not happy with how it works, then it ain't going to work. So adoption is as important. And yes, initial change issues, but that's not limited to sales, I can tell you.
That's a very wonderful way you answered that. It is an all-pervading issue, not limited to sales. But with the fact that we're a little more passionate about sales, my question was more directed at sales. And but I think it's very well answered. So thanks, Ashish. Very, very insightful. Thank you. So with this, I have a couple of questions to Sanjay. Two points or two comments. One is on trust and communication. You've fairly been passionate about trust and communication and how important it is in these times. And a lot of organizations are learning that. So I wanted to really highlight a little bit more on that and how the challenges to manage this new environment of trust and communication that is going to be important.
Yeah, so on trust, I mean, imagine you meet somebody new, right? First time you're meeting somebody. And there are two kinds of people. People who trust the person without waiting for time. And there's a second person who will wait 6 months, a year to say, okay, I trust this person. Now, my belief is that if you hire correctly, you should trust the person on day one. Otherwise, you shouldn't have that person in the team, right? That is my sort of premise that I've always worked in so many years. And I think in my career, only once, over 3 decades, somebody has let me down, right? The other way I'd put it is that if somebody trusts you so implicitly, how can you let that person down? Think about it. I have had bosses who've trusted me implicitly. Whatever I would say, they would say yes. And I would get worried. No, you should challenge me a little bit because I could be wrong. So trust is people don't come to office to do bad things, in my opinion, generally speaking. There's the odd black sheep who will do something wrong. But generally, people come to office to do a good job. It may not be in their capability to do a good job, etc. So trust is an aspect which, it differs across cultures. There are some cultures which trust people implicitly, and there are some which don't. And you see this across the spectrum, certainly in Asia Pacific, I see that. I would say that if you trust people, you can't go wrong. I mean, that's the most positive thing that you can do, right? And on communication, I mean, it's a ever evolving learning experience for everybody. I remember one of my bosses, and I still remember, he told me, Sanjay, be short, sharp, succinct, the 3 S's. I've never forgotten that. And it's better to say less than more. And especially now that we are all talking remotely, it's even more important to communicate clearly, crisply, less is more. And I think organizations are spending a lot of time on communication because, you can't see everybody. You can't feel the body language or see the body language of people. And therefore, how you communicate remotely, by video like we are doing today, is super important in terms of communicating few things, but just make it land at the right spots, and then hopefully people will embrace it. So the culture aspect also is very important in this. And, organizations do some organizations, the communication, it also depends on the culture. So American organizations are very different from, let's say, British organizations, if I was just to look at 2 broad sort of types of organizations. The Indian corporations also do it differently. So I think it's one that is evolving, but I think it's evolving for the better. And I always say the glass is half full, and there is always, you can do more. I'm still learning more about listening, for instance. There's lots of things that we can do to listen. And when you're in a call like this, I mean, I've attended many video conferences where, people are just talking over each other, and it's jars. So we're doing lots of training around that. So that's a few comments I'd make around trust and communication.
So thanks. I think the very good context you said, both trust and communication is actually rooted in the culture and how people have experienced in the past. And today's times, it's extremely important to be very respectfully, gain trust quickly, and communicate precisely and sharply so that people can really appreciate. I have a follow-up question. What's your view or experience on how people are managing this entire period of uncertainty and ambiguity? Because everybody is driving with or without their fog lights on. And this is how I reckon it will be for some more time.
So it's a very good question. I think the jury is out on this. I would say it's a mixed bag. There are some people who are taking this pandemic positively. The glass is half full for them. But for a number of people, based on their experiences, the glass is half empty. And those are the people who we need to massage more to think otherwise. I would also say it depends on the personal experiences of the people, not just at work. I mean, work we can take care of from the organization point of view, but what happens in their families, the bereavements that are happening to their families, friends, etc., the mood swings that they have. We all go through mood swings these days. There are days where you say, okay, somebody in my building has got COVID. Now what's going to happen to me? The other day in my parents' building, they're 85 and 80. Somebody's got COVID. We are worried over here. So you have these mood swings, and I would say people just need to be positive. People just need to do all the things I talked about, be it exercise, boost your immune system, meditate, do mindfulness, whatever. There are ways of making this situation better for ourselves, but the onus is really on us. I would say it's a mixed bag at the moment. There are some people doing better than others. And I just hope for the welfare of society that there's more good news that comes along the way. I mean, the vaccine is not going to come in a hurry, and no matter what people tell me. Even if you got the vaccine today, you and I are not going to get the vaccine for at least another year, if not more. And I think we need to sort of realize that the only thing we can do is to prevent us from getting this by adopting some safe measures. So yes, anxiety levels are up. There's ambiguity. You don't even know whether you're going to keep your job today, frankly. So those are all things people are dealing with. And we have to, from an organizational point of view, help these staff over the line in terms of trying to be, like I said, being empathetic, being kind, being flexible, and, giving in more than taking.
Sanjay, it's really very well responded, because there are no clear answers. There's no clear solutions. All of us need to learn as we go along. That's what is getting evident. And our audience also has responded to your emphasis on trust and clearly said that's a lot more sustainable than transactional sales. So trust is finally the sense of what the future relationships will be based on. So thank you, Sanjay, for extremely insightful response to that. So I come back to my last question to Ashish. This again come from our audience. Ashish, if I can direct a question to you.
Sure.
Ashish, the question really is, insurance research and studies have shown that resilience has direct impact on performance. So what's your experience with the type of resilience this salesperson will show in the industry?
Okay, so I can say I couldn't agree more. Particularly, insurance sales, it's a tough job, you're there, so far, as I said, it's been, the notion is that it's been a push sales. It happens face to face. Nobody wakes up to say, today I'm going to buy insurance, et cetera, et cetera. And that's, that said, so you need people who are resilient, who are optimistic, to go out every day, and make sales. And now that is changing a bit, as I said, because of the awareness that, this pandemic has brought.
So thank you, Ashish. I think I don't want to take too much time, but I think a lot of a positive perspective coming from both our panelists, especially the feeling that the glass is half full. And that's the way one needs to look at these times. I really appreciate that.
Ravi, I couldn't have said it better. Both the panel, we missed Apul. He just sent a message again saying that it's unfortunate that he had a medical exigency, and I think all of you will join me in wishing him well, that things work out well. He's been very enthusiastic and wanting to participate, but then I guess that's what happened. So I think I'd mentioned our previous panelist, Vidyut, would be here. He joined in late, but he's very much here. So Vidyut, welcome. Ajay is around, is also on the board. So I did not wish them earlier. Before I say my thanks and wish everyone a thank you, I think I have delivered on my promise, which I made right at the start, that this is going to be an excellent session, and both Sanjay and Ashish, with different perspectives, but fabulous insights, I would say. Andre, would you want to say something? Andre is my regional director of Horton for Europe. Andre, would you want to say something, my friend?
Yes, I hope you see me.
Yes, we can.
DP, it's I would say it's a fantastic initiative. What you are doing is fully supported by Horton globally, and especially by me. Very, very hot topics, interesting insights. I like the speakers with extreme background. And what I really recommend is that you continue, please not stop, continue to develop this initiative. And I would like it's going through the region. It's going more globally, so to see more people from as a speakers from EMEA region, from America, and also to see more participants all over the world. So very, very good, very impressed. Appreciate this, and you are doing a good job. Please continue.
Yeah, so thank you for that. We're already going global. Sanjay joined us from Hong Kong. So yeah, we're starting to go global, and we'll continue that way. And from India, we have some very good speakers. We actually don't need. We'll go global from here. So folks,
Yeah, probably one at the end. What's my best learning from this is two things: speed is definitely our competitive advantage,
Yep. Yep.
and be positive. So these are two things which I personally learned from this conference.
Right. And trust. That was the third one, if you can add on to that. So yes, it was an excellent discussion, and very truly, while the doctors and the healthcare professionals battle corona, the sales professional, the directors are the field commanders and the frontline corporate warriors, and we are out in that battlefield called the market, whether it's digital or otherwise, and we are fighting the enemy, which is obviously competition, and ensuring the health of the organization, which in this case is revenue. And that Ravi talked about it, Ashish talked about it. So my friends, join me in saluting this warrior called the sales professional. That's one. And I take this opportunity to thank Sanjay, Ashish, and Ravi for an excellent discussion. Audience, thank you very much. I think you all were very participative. Thank you to my team, Rathin, Tarun, Mrs. Sethi, and Gerard, and my founding team of Insals Pro. Two of them are here, Girish and Nimish are here. So thank you to them that we have started this initiative around sales, and we hope to continue this. And thank you very much for your time, and have a nice evening ahead of you. And thanks for your support.